Buenas and half a day. This public hearing is now called to order, and the time now is 2 p.m. on this day, May 4th, 2026. And I'd like to apologize to everyone who's listening, and of course, those here today for the delay. We had some technical difficulties with our YouTube. So we're here today, and thank you for being here. This hearing is conducted by myself, Senator Telo, Taitague, Chairman on the Committee on Economic Investment, Military Buildup, Regional Relations, Technology, Regulatory Affairs, Justice, Election, and Retirement. And to comply with the open government law, notices of this hearing were published on KUAM and the Government of Guam notice portal on Monday, April 27, 2026, and the second notice on Thursday, April 30th, 2026. The notice of this hearing was also disseminated to all the senators, media via email, and is made available on the Guam Legislative website, which is up and running right now, if you, FYI. Okay. I would like to also recognize those who are in person and those who are watching from home. Welcome to your Guam Legislature. I also like to welcome my colleagues who are joining us today, Senator Therese Terlahi, Senator Chris Barnett, Senator Jesse Lujan, and Senator Sean Gumatautau. Colleagues, copies of the informational briefing documents compiled received prior to this informational briefing can be accessed through the Google Drive link, which is published and on the public hearing notice for this hearing, and also emailed to you in advance, as well as a copy of all the questions that were provided to these four agencies ahead of time. So you will see those questions in front of you to basically to knock off some time, you know, or just make it more convenient for everybody to provide the answers. For the listening public, you can also access the Google Drive link on the public hearing notice published by the Government of Guam public notice portal at notices.guam.gov. However, I'm not sure if that is up yet. I have a list of some, but is it up, Ms. Paris? Okay, so notices to Guam.gov is up and running. The Guam Legislature's website is also up and running at guamlegislature.gov. If you need assistance, please feel free to call the legislature at 671-472-3465. The rules before we begin are when you speak, to please speak directly into the microphone. And for the record, please state your name, position, and who you represent. I ask that those who are testifying today to stay seated for any questions my colleagues may have, and then you'll be excused. I do know some individuals have to leave right away. We're in the middle of still recovery, as well as we all know what's happened on the cyber side. So I also ask that you conduct yourselves professionally and respect each other's opinion. So no pulling hair or biting or, okay. Those individuals who do not comply with these rules will be removed from the room and prohibited from participating. So that being said, this informational hearing, let me get this. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and start with the informational hearing. I invited 4 individuals to be here today to participate in this hearing. And just to let you know that after this hearing is concluded, I will recess, and another hearing will be, we'll notify for another hearing for the public to come and provide their testimonies to the comments that you made today. So just a FYI, okay. So, Hafide and good morning, and I would like to begin by acknowledging the significance of this briefing we are holding today. It's been a little over a year since the committee held its first informational briefing on the military buildup. The military buildup was significant and has far-reaching impacts on all aspects of our lives in Guam and in our community, ranging from economy, emergency preparedness, infrastructure, housing, healthcare, workforce development, the environment, education, cultural, historical practices, and preservation. Unfortunately, though, we had invited both Rear Admiral Midas, commander of the Joint Region Marianas, and invited Rear Admiral Latsky, commander of the Joint Task Force Micronesia, to this hearing. In their response to our invitation, they informed us they will not be attending this year's military informational briefing, and they will not be sending a representative with no explanation as to why. It is very disheartening that they are not staying true to the commitment of the One Guam approach. This is very disappointing and is the reality of this military buildup changing so drastically that they should be here to answer our questions. But nevertheless, I'm greatly appreciative of those before us today who do protect this community. We are here today to provide my colleagues, but most especially the people of Guam, who deserve and have every right to know what the status of the military buildup / defense is on our island. Present today, we have Vera Topasna, Executive Director of the Community Defense Liaison Office. We have Carlotta Leon Guerrero, the Governor's Chief Advisor on Military Regional Affairs from the Office of the Governor. We have Homeland Security Advisor Representative, who is here today representing Esther Agagi, Ms. Paris from Homeland Security. We also have Office of Civil Defense from the Civil Defense, and Assistant Adjutant General Colonel Charles Douglas, who is representing Brigadier General Karen Watson, the Adjutant General of the National Guard, who's currently off island. So, thank you so much for being here. And before we proceed, I also like to ask my colleagues to refrain from any questions that you have until after everyone has had the opportunity to provide their opening remarks. I ask this because prior to the informational briefing, I provided each person here with a set of questions that they are to address at the starting of this briefing. So at this time, I'd like to open it up to Executive Director Topasna. You are now recognized to present your opening remarks based on the questions I sent to you earlier, as well as any additional comments you would like to add to your presentation. Madam, you are now recognized.
Thank you, Honorable Senator Taitague, and all senators present here today. Thank you for this opportunity to come before you and to present this informational briefing on the military buildup. The Community Defense Liaison Office continues to serve as the Government of Guam's coordinating link on defense-related matters that affect our island community. In practice, that means we work across GovGuam agencies, our federal partners, military commands, to identify impacts and opportunities early, to align planning, and advocate for community needs as build-up activities continue. Our work is centered on one core responsibility, and that is making sure Guam is not only informed about the build-up, but to the extent practicable is prepared for it and positioned to secure the federal coordination and investment needed to protect the health, infrastructure, housing stability, and public services for our people. The briefing that I'm about to share with you reflects that mission. It responds to the committee's supplemental questions and provides an executive overview of CDLO's current work across 5 areas: our grant portfolio management, housing, infrastructure, healthcare and preparedness, and federal coordination tied to funding and the Economic Adjustment Committee process. At this stage, CDLO is supporting active grants already advancing public health capacity, logistics support, and professional advisory work, while also standing up new assessment efforts focused on village infrastructure, island-wide medical capacity, and infrastructure. We are also tracking through our housing subcommittee of the Civil Military Coordinating Council, led by Fernando Esteves, on how military growth is affecting off-base housing demand, public infrastructure timelines, hospital capacity, and the need for stronger interagency coordination so that civilian systems are not left to absorb pressure without planning or support, working with our local agencies Joint Region Marianas, and Joint Task Force Micronesia counterparts. Just as important, CDLO has been designated as the Government of Guam lead for coordination with the Department of War, the Office of Local Defense Community Cooperation, and federal partners as the Economic Adjustment Committee process moves forward for Guam. Today's presentation is intended to give the committee a clear picture of where the buildup stands today with available information that's provided to the CDLO, what pressures and opportunities are emerging, and where CDLO is focused in order to protect community interests while maintaining a constructive working relationship with our local, federal, and military partners. And so I thank you, Madam Chair. With that, I will proceed with the briefing. I'm not sure if, I apologize, we brought the presentation, so I'm not sure if it's able to go up.
Unfortunately, what has happened is we needed this a couple days. There's a requirement a couple days in advance in order to put the PowerPoint up, and it didn't meet the deadline. So I did provide all our senators who are here today with a copy of your brief, so you can go ahead and proceed from there. And hopefully we will put this online for the public to be able to look at as well, to provide that access. So please go ahead and proceed.
Okay, and so I'll begin with our grant portfolio. Currently, the CDLO is managing a logistics and operational grant, and that provides for the staff of the CDLO, and I would be remiss, same people. I do have an addition, former Senator George Bamba, our senior policy analyst, have our chief planner, John Birch, a senior planner, Jose Napati, and our senior engineer, Mr. Al Santos. I almost said Al. And then I have Sahara Cruz, who is working sort of dually on a OIPD grant supporting CDLO, and Melissa Bettis at OIPD. And so we are managing again, currently, the Professional Advisory Services grant that was awarded a year and a half ago to Tetra Tech. And in that grant, they have been assessing the post-malware vulnerabilities to telecommunications, power, water, the port, and they are just about ready to wrap up a final report. In addition to that, they provide NEPA support to us, professional certified environmental experts who have been supporting the Office of the Governor and our GovGuam agencies in responding to the final EIAMD EIS and the Mariana Island Training and Testing MIT action that just closed a few days ago. And so we were able to successfully respond with really good comments from our government of Guam to include a request for the Navy to possibly assess the post-Sinlaco effects on our reefs and the ocean and all of the issues that we faced. So we will see what the response will be. The governor sent a cover letter with those comments. In addition to those open grants, we do have some new awards that has not yet been awarded contractually, but I will share that we have a village infrastructure needs assessment to support the Village Mayor's Council to look at emergency response, critical infrastructure within the villages. We will also, they will also be providing one-on-one support to the Mayor's Council as we deal with the military buildup. In addition to that, we have a medical capacity services grant, which will look at the overall capacity of medical facilities and capabilities across the island not just the hospital, but clinics, specialty clinics, and what that capacity is for the people of Guam, in consideration for the influx of military personnel as well. And then the third one is the infrastructure risk assessment that will look at other critical areas such as fuel logistic support throughout the island. We will be looking at, and in partnership with OIPD, we will look at broadband and a little bit of cyber vulnerabilities on the island, and the transportation emergency network system, working with DPW. So those are the three grants that were awarded to CDLO. And again, we are working on getting those out on the streets and hopefully awarded soon. And so moving on, I know that there were questions about the housing RFP that went out by the DOD. And so what I'm reporting is as much as I could get from them, but I would invite the committee to perhaps address them. I don't want to misquote anything or misreport anything by them, but I did put some graphics here, and again, this was reported by Admiral Midas during the CMCC, and so it covers the RFP for the phase 1 of their housing at 917 family units, plus 400 unaccompanied service member units. The housing pilot phase 2, my understanding is that is not yet released. I understand that they are revisiting their approach, but I don't have any additional information. This is basically what you see here on the slide is what they covered when they announced and when they reported what they would be looking for in terms of housing in their RFP. And as the Admiral had mentioned, the acquisition strategy that they were looking at was a lease, either a lease to purchase, or other transaction structure as deemed appropriate by and acceptable by the Department of the Navy. And again, I know that phase 2 is being worked on. When that will come out or any information, I do not have an update from them. And so moving on to the next slide, the last time that we were here before you, Madam Chair, JRM Randy Sablan had reported where they were on build-up completion percentages and MILCON status, excluding the Missile Defense Program. And this graphic is basically from some of the reports that they issued to us. The EIAMD on this slide was tracked separately, but in the next slide, you will see this is the latest from NAFAC, and that is currently under construction is $6.1 billion, planned for FY26. In other words, those are to be awarded in FY26 is $2.5 billion. And then the FY27 PDI MILCON that is being proposed and sent to Congress is right around $1.9 billion. And in that is the program for the Missile Defense of Guam, some housing, and I believe a bit of cybersecurity initiatives. And so the total visible program at this point, $10.5 billion across active execution. And again, FY26 plans and FY27 anticipated or proposed to Congress. And then the next few slides, or in the next slide, it was, you had asked about military health care expansion capacity and civilian hospital strain. And this was taken from their DoD Health military report in 2025. I did run it up the chain at JRM, and so far it's pretty much tracking. They will go back and see if there's an update, but this is the slide that I am sharing based on what they reported. And I think it's important to note the 39-bed inpatient hospital, in other words, Navy hospital, is also shared by veterans, but that is their inpatient capacity. And then there's demand outpaces capacity, as they have stated in their report. What we do know is that they are standing up, well, the Naval Base Guam has a new medical clinic to support capacity. And I believe the Camp Blas has a small a clinic, and then Anderson Air Force Base, though it is outpatient. Right now, currently, we are working with NAVFAC Pacific on the Guam DoD master plan that takes into account using the latest growth population for the military buildup to look at, they've already produced a gap analysis. We are waiting for a final report from them, and we continue to work with them and our agencies to get that Guam DoD master plan issued this year. And then lastly, the convening of the Economic Adjustment Committee. I can report that, unfortunately, we had to cancel the first federal roundtable in San Francisco due to Typhoon Sinlaku, but that was had already been scheduled, and Guam was prepared, our agency heads were prepared to accompany the governor for that roundtable. So right now we are waiting for a reschedule, which we would hope would be sometime in June. And in the EAC, we've had all our agencies submit priority projects. Right now, there are 5 core areas that the CDLO focused on with our agency counterparts, and that is the hospital capacity, the Port of Guam, Guam Power, Guam Water, and DPW for roads. Those agencies were provided technical support from our professional advisory team to help them solidify their packages for this federal convening. And again, we have the DoD master plan. That's an emerging track that we hope to get out this year. And then in the NDAA, what we are waiting for is a directed feasibility study for the shipyard that is due April 2026. To date, we haven't had an update on that. I believe they're still working on it. And so with that, that is all I have to report, pending any questions. Thank you
so much. Thank you so much, Vera. Before I turn it over to the next one on the agenda, I did want to ask you, this information that you provided on this spreadsheet, this is up to date. This is 2026 information, right?
For which?
Well, what is not up to date as far as information? Because you mentioned...
I think the only one probably that I would say would be something I would want maybe updated would be the hospital, the medical capacity slide.
Okay.
That had some of the stats for Naval Hospital, okay, and healthcare. That's probably something that I would want updated.
Okay. And lastly, you were talking about the grant for military facilities and getting together about finding out even clinics as well as hospitals that you're accumulating this information. Does that also include the military clinics as well and hospital?
Yes, that would look at the entire capacity
the whole entire Guam.
Yes,
okay,
both inside and outside the fence.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And at this time, I'd like to recognize Ms. Paris from Homeland Security. Madam, you have the floor.
Good afternoon and Taitague, Honorable Chairwoman Taitague, and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Esther J.C. Agagi. I serve as Guam's Homeland Security Advisor and Acting Administrator of the Office of Civil Defense under the Office of the Governor. I also serve as Guam's Territorial Coordinating Officer, the primary civilian link between our island and FEMA. I am the former Adjutant General of the Guam National Guard with over 36 years of combined military and public service to the island I call home. I am grateful for this opportunity and I welcome this dialogue. The mission of the Office of Homeland Security and the Office of Civil Defense is to protect the people of Guam before, during, and after any threat, whether natural or man-made. We are Guam's lead agency for emergency preparedness, disaster response and recovery, and Homeland Security coordination. Think of us as the civilian command center that connects the governor, federal partners like FEMA and DHS, the military, and every GovGuam agency when a crisis hits. Typhoon Mawar in 2023, COVID-19, and right now, OHS OCD is hard at work with our ongoing recovery from Typhoon Sinlaku, coordinating resources, managing federal disaster declarations, and keeping the governor informed every single day. Have our duties changed this past year? Yes, significantly. The security environment around Guam has grown more complex. The military buildup has accelerated. That means our office is now operating at the intersection of natural disaster response and defense-related civil preparedness simultaneously. We are doing more with a lean team while managing an active federal disaster recovery. Our areas of responsibility include emergency management and disaster response, Homeland Security grant administration, cybersecurity coordination, emergency communications and public warning systems, critical infrastructure protection, and continuity of government operations. Of these, the items requiring the most urgent attention are cybersecurity and emergency communications, and I will address both directly. There is one item that does not technically fall under the purview of OHS OCD, but that I believe requires this committee's urgent attention: the condition and funding of Guam's critical utilities infrastructure, specifically power and water. No emergency system functions without them. When the grid goes down, everything downstream fails. That is a GPA and GWA matter, but it is an OHS OCD problem the moment a disaster strikes. Guam's cybersecurity posture is improving, but we are not where we need to be, and I will be direct about that. Our critical digital infrastructure includes government networks, the Port Authority systems, GPA's operational technology, hospital networks, and telecommunications. These systems support commerce, healthcare, water distribution, and public safety. A cyber attack on any one of them can cascade across all of them, as we saw happen to the Colonial Pipeline on the US mainland in 2021, where a single ransomware attack shut down fuel supplies across the eastern seaboard for days. OHS OCD is currently pursuing federal funding, approximately $2 million, to modernize our IT infrastructure, establish redundant communication systems, and build out a cybersecurity capability appropriate for an island of strategic national importance. We are working with CISA and our federal partners on this, but funding and staffing gaps remain. Immediate needs include a dedicated cybersecurity operations function, updated network architecture across GovGuam agencies, and a tested incident response plan. We do not yet have all three fully operational. Regarding the secured room located inside our OHS OCD facility, I want to be clear. The loss of access to that space has not impacted our defensive capabilities or our readiness. Our strong partnership with Joint Region Marianas and the Federal Bureau of Investigation continue to provide us with critical information necessary in the interest of national security. Those relationships are intact, active, and effective. At this time, there is no projected timeline for regaining access to that room, but operationally, we remain fully capable. On public warning systems, I want to correct a common misconception. Guam does not have an air raid warning system. What we have is an all hazards alert warning system, also known as AHAS. And I am proud to report that it's fully operational. It consists of 23 warning locations distributed throughout the island, covering our villages and key population areas. This system is tested on the second Tuesday of every month so that our residents know what it sounds like and what to do when they hear it. That regularity builds public confidence and community readiness. On broader emergency communications, OHS OCD activates the emergency alert system and coordinates with local media during any emergency. We have also received grant funding to implement the wireless emergency alert system, which pushes notifications directly to every cell phone on island, ensuring we reach each resident rapidly and broadly, regardless of whether they are watching television or listening to the radio. We also maintain direct lines to our village mayors, who are our last mile communicators to residents on the ground. That network is one of our most underappreciated but most critical asset, and we continue to invest in strengthening it. In the event of an emergency, whether due to a natural disaster, a conflict, or war situation, OHS OCD will disseminate information to the civilian population of Guam through two primary channels: the All Hazards Alert Warning System and the Joint Information Center. The Joint Information Center brings together government agencies, military partners, and media into a single coordinated communications hub, ensuring that the public receives one clear, consistent, and accurate message, no matter the nature of the emergency. Chairwoman Taitague, this committee is asking exactly the right questions. Guam sits at the tip of the spear, geographically, strategically, and increasingly in terms of risk. Our people deserve a civil defense capability that matches that reality. I am committed to this work. My office is committed, and I welcome the legislature as a partner in making sure we get there. I do want to offer my sincere apologies, given that we are in the middle of an active disaster recovery. I am unable to appear or stay for questions today. However, I genuinely welcome your feedback and any follow-on questions. Please do not hesitate to reach out to my office directly at lucia.perez@ghs.guam.gov or esther.aggie@ghs.guam.gov. We will be responsible. Sizu Maasi.
Thank you so much, Ms. Paris. And I'd also like to thank you for inviting me up 2 days after the typhoon to see how Homeland Security / Office of Civil Defense is working during the recovery efforts. And I was very impressed. And just having Andy from GSA sitting in the director's office from the time it started to the end was just so impressive. There too, ready to stamp all those RFPs right away to get the equipment needed for our people as they recover. And at this time, you know, I'll have AG and then, I mean, not AG, I'll have the Adjutant General go next, then you, Carlotta, and then we'll do your questions so that you can leave because I know you have to leave. So at this time, I'd like to recognize Colonel Douglas. You are now recognized, please, sir.
Day, Madam Chairwoman and honorable members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today regarding the ongoing military buildup from a Guam National Guard perspective. I appear before you not just as a military officer, but as someone who has called Guam home for more than 33 years, representing the men and women of the Guam National Guard who live, work, and serve in the very communities we are sworn to protect. Today, I want to address 3 vital areas: how our National Guard integrates with the broader joint force on the island, how the current buildup impacts our specific formation, and our critical role in ensuring the resilience of Guam's people and civilian infrastructure. First, regarding our interface with the other military branches, as you know, the Guam National Guard is a unique entity. We operate under the dual authority of the Governor of Guam and the President of the United States. In the context of the buildup and the Indo-Pacific strategy, we are part of the total force. Our Adjutant General stays in regular communication with Joint Task Force Micronesia, Joint Region Marianas, and other military commands on island through synchronized meetings, planning efforts, and even social events. These relationships are key to the success of our interoperability and shared missions. Whether it is through integrated missile defense operations at the THAAD, joint logistics planning, or shared training ranges, the Guard works to bring a local perspective to federal military planning. Our soldiers and airmen serve as a critical bridge between the Department of War and the local community, so advocating for the island's needs has become our implied task. Second, regarding how the military buildup affects the Guam Guard, the influx of active duty personnel, assets, and infrastructure development presents both opportunities and challenges to our ranks. On the opportunity side, the buildup brings potential training facilities and joint operational exercises to our backyard and may provide employment opportunities with the Guam defense system. However, we also recognize the challenges. As the active duty footprint grows, so does the competition for resources. The increased personnel and operational tempo on the island means our logistic and support elements, such as our central issuing and maintenance facilities, training space, and availability of military medical providers, are challenged to maintain a pace with the broader defense strategy. As the second smallest and most remote National Guard in the nation, we are actively advocating for proportionate federal investment in local facilities and manning to ensure we are not outpaced by the broader buildup. And finally, and most importantly, I want to address our role in the national security and civilian considerations. While the active duty branches are heavily focused on power projection and regional deterrence, the Guam National Guard's center of gravity remains the homeland defense of Guam. National security cannot exist without local resilience. Our defense support of civil authorities' mission is paramount. When it comes to life support, our engineers, medical personnel, and logistic experts are the first military responders to natural disasters. But beyond storm response, our modern battlefield includes critical infrastructure and cyberspace. The military buildup relies heavily on civilian infrastructure. and our commercial port, our power grid, our water system, and our telecommunications. Recognizing this, the Guam Guard has prioritized cyber defense and critical infrastructure protection. Our cyber efforts work to connect GovGuam agencies and local utilities with resources for vulnerable assessments, network hardening, and defense against state-sponsored and non-state actors who seek to disrupt our way of life. But without a formalized full-time cyber protection team, our capability is limited. In conclusion, the military buildup is transforming our island's strategic landscape, but the core mission of the Guam National Guard remains unchanged: to protect our island and defend our nation. We will continue to leverage our joint partnership, adapt to the changing footprint, and fight for Guam's civilian infrastructure and cyber resiliency needs. Because the people of Guam deserve nothing less. Thank you, and I look forward to any of your questions.
Thank you so much, Colonel. At this time, I'd like to recognize Carlotta Leon Guerrero. Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and good afternoon to members of the legislature. I think I'm here with two hats on, the Governor's Chief Advisor on Military and Regional Affairs and also the Executive Director of the Azuda Foundation, which was one of the topics of the questions that you sent my way, Madam Chair, was to update this body on an APIL resolution that was sent to INDOPACOM urging the leaders of the region wanted INDOPACOM to pay attention to creating a greater humanitarian role. And they advised them to talk with the Azuda Foundation about how we could do that together. So that was a year ago. And so to report back from that, I have been approached by INDOPACOM, different people from INDOPACOM. It first happened when there was the defense forum that Vera organized here. After I gave my remarks, I was approached, and then when I was in Hawaii for another meeting, I had some other meetings with people from INDOPACOM. So I would say it's starting off connections on how to connect their training efforts with humanitarian needs, trying to do more so that every time the ships or planes are going out, that we would be aware of it, and whatever is space available, there would be an opportunity to put humanitarian cargo on that. So that, I would say those conversations have begun. I would like to say I would like to see them more structured, and but I do have to say that I feel that we have started something. And one of the first things that they wanted to talk with me about was to get some feedback from me as well as the other people that I deal with on seaplanes. INDOPACOM has an interest in maintaining seaplane capability. And so the conversation was very brief, but could seaplane capability factor into humanitarian delivery of cargo to small remote atolls? So there has been no other conversations after that initial conversation specifically on seaplanes. But I can tell you that right now, switching to current efforts to recover from Sinlaku, what it is like dealing with INDOPACOM right now is they're interacting, they're calling. I'll get a call at like 8 o'clock at night and say, can you move something? And we want to get a Navy plane, we want to do an airlift, we want to do water relief to an isolated impacted area in Saipan. So they will call, they will connect, but it's not in any regular standard SOP kind of way. It's just that right now we're in the middle of a disaster. And so military ships and planes are reaching out, the captains, I get calls from people that work at Joint Task Force Micronesia asking about availability and could we get cargo. So I would say we're connecting, but it's not in a standardized way. I'm hoping that over time that will strengthen, those capacities will strengthen. The other way, Oh, yes.
That's just a copy of the questions that we provided you, just in case. And also, just to let you know, I did provide the legislature, the senators, a copy of the API resolution so they can look at it. But I just thought I would give you a copy of the questions
So
that were sent.
and I apologize, I've been tied up a little bit on the...
No, understandable, this
So
typhoon,
on this one here on deep sea mining, I did have a point I wanted to make to update the legislature on the governor's efforts on deep sea mining as it pertains to military training and trying to get Indo-PACOM involved. Is we've done a lot of research and we found out that the Florida delegations, congressional delegations, as well as DOD, has opposed BOEM's efforts to do oil drilling in the outer continental shelf. So they are opposed to anything that is going to put natural resource extraction up against military training and testing. So that's what they say. There's all this literature, there's all these positions coming out of the unified Florida congressional delegation, as well as DOD, these reports where they're saying that they didn't say deep sea mining, that's what we're saying. They're saying oil extraction within the outer continental shelf in the Gulf will hinder military training and testing, and so they're opposed to it. And so that's one of the things that the governor's office is working on, is that position, and working with Governor Apateng in the CNMI. There's a letter that's going out to the Senate Natural Resource Chairman asking for a federal task force on deep sea mining, as well as getting an impact study on how deep sea mining in the outer continental shelf will impact the military training and testing. And so it's an unusual position for us to be in, but if this is something that can slow down this process until science catches up with it, it is something that we are exploring. So that's the best I can answer at this time. I apologize, I don't have all the answers to the different questions. I can submit and get them to you soon.
How about the last one before? I gave you a copy of the questions that were provided to you earlier. This last one on the rotation of Marine Corps personnel from Okinawa, Japan to Guam.
I would think Vera probably has more of an idea of that, but I do know that the impetus that they had on of concern to the government of Guam is in that rotation. How do you calculate the impact to Section 30 funds with a 6-month rotation? So the government of Guam is always trying to say, whether you put 2 people into that, we're going to count that as impact. So they're thinking, is that the issue, right, on the Section 30? One of the ideas is that we wanted to make sure how that is calculated as far as their impact to our services, so that we can claim Section 30. So I'm sorry, I don't have a fuller answer on that one.
Okay, at this time, I know you have to leave as well as Ms. Paris, so I'm going to open up to my colleagues for any questions they may have. Just to Carlotta first, and then once finished with her, we'll go to Ms. Paris, and then we'll continue on with both sides to be here. So I'm going to go ahead and start with, who came first? Senator Gumatauta, you are recognized. This is just for Carlotta Leongaro, the Governor's Liaison for Military Affairs.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Carlotta, for being with us, and thank you, Lucy, for your work on the response. On the proposed MITT study area expansion, which civilian government agencies were formally consulted before that proposal was advanced? And has the Office of the Governor provided, and I think you mentioned it earlier, but has the Office of the Governor provided a written position on the expansion's potential impact on civilian communities?
The expansion of the MIT to the civilian community, I believe this is something that Vera's office handled, and I think this is something that we also had assistance with Tetra Tech and Professional Advisory Services on that. But as far as going all the way up to Interior and to BOEM, as well as to Congress, the governor, lieutenant governor, as well as the speaker, Congressman Moylan, and the mayor's president just sent a letter to BOEM. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. That was for deep sea mining. No, I'm sorry. Vera has the latest information on the expansion of that.
Okay, thank you so much, Carlotta. That was my only question, but I'll save that for Vera.
Sorry,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
conflicted.
That's it.
Thank you so much. Senator Lujan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, Senator,
Buenas.
and Senator Bamba as well. See you here. Senator Young-Guerrero, I asked the governor a while back here that the Office of Federal Affairs also be extended the opportunity to be part of the Civilian Military Coordinating Committee at the start of this term, the same way my predecessor, who had the Committee on Federal and Foreign Affairs, Senator Barnes, were given that opportunity as well. I haven't heard back regarding that request.
I'm not sure exactly what the response to that. I can tell you that my recommendation is to say yes. I like the more the merrier. And when I was in your position, I was included in all kinds of executive task forces and military task forces as well. So that's the best I can do. Is I have passed it on, and I do recommend that you guys be a part of it.
And I appreciate that, because some of the questions here that were being asked, and some things here come back to us as well. You know, I have oversight of all utilities,
Yes.
tourism, and things of that nature. And in my communications as well with both actually admirals as the oversight chair for federal affairs as well, they're supportive of some of the things that we're supportive of. But, you know, we need to all sit down, and, you know, in one setting and talk these things out, because you may not have some answers to some of these things, but they may do. They may have the answers with that. Like, for example, in regards to, I've asked about infrastructure, and totally in support of it as well. One of the things that we asked about, again, is that the airport to be able to tap into the pipeline, to be able to have fuel directly to the airport, to get that, because that was one of the things in Mawar that prevented, again, the airport from functioning 100%, because all their fuel trucks were busy out to their stations, and they you know, the airport wasn't a priority to these folks. They were in support of that and wanting to move forward that, and I know the airport is pursuing that as well. And likewise, we just got the information that the Trump administration extended the Jones Act waiver for another 90 days. So this is something that we need, a permanent waiver, basically, for our situation here as well for Guam. Not just 90 days, not going to do us any good. And we know also that these tankers that because we know that Japan just got their fuel from Alaska not too long ago here, but those tankers cannot come into Guam. They use tankers we use here are called boutique tankers, basically. So these exemptions, the 60 and the 90 days exemptions, you know, are nice. But what I like about it is that it gives us the opportunity again to talk about our uniqueness here on the island, and that yes, we appreciate the waiver, but we need, or the temporary waiver, but we need the permanent waivers because of who we are and where we are. That these are exemptions, again, the you know, just few months, it's not going to do us any good. So, and these are things, again, I mean, another thing is the cabotage situation here. Both admirals are supportive of it, you know, and so if we can get them in black and white to support that will go a long ways to some of the things that we're pursuing. But
I'm a big fan, Senator. I'm a big fan of us working closer Joint Task Force Micronesia, Marianas, Indo-PACOM. I think that the lawmakers have a lot to offer. So I'll stress it again every chance that I get.
And I appreciate that, again, being part of the committee, because like I said, some of the things that, of course, here we have a crossover between the military buildup and federal and foreign affairs at this point here. So there are questions that I previously asked that were answered in a positive manner, but those folks are not here. And so, when are we going to come together? Is it going to be a joint resolution with everybody, or how are we going to take advantage? Again, like I said, we just heard that we got an exemption to the Jones Act, another 90 days. How do we take advantage of that to really get our cause looked at, to get the permanent waiver for that? Because again, the 90 days, it's nice. It's a little longer than the 60, but are we taking advantage of that to really, again, show our uniqueness and the need for a permanent exemption? So anyway, that's my thing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Very welcome. Thank you, Senator. As well, Carlotta, I know we're going to be getting information from you on the questions that I asked you earlier, and to please incorporate into that question regarding the civilian-military coordination. It's a good question to ask the governor if she would still let us be a part, at least a member of this legislature to be a part. Other than that, then I will move over to Senator Shalahi. You are now recognized, ma'am.
Madam Chair. Thank you for being here this afternoon, all of you, and your testimony. Just wanted to follow up on a couple. So I guess we're open to every strategy regarding this deep sea mining, slowing it down. I agree with you. I just don't want to be endorsing any additional military training or testing in those same waters, because they also have impacts. I'm interested to see the comment on the MIT that your office submitted, Vera, and looking forward to that. If we could get a copy, if it's not posted online, please. And especially because you said that was in consultation with you have a consultant working with you right now for those types of things. All right. I wanted to go back a little bit to the housing. Oh, sorry. Only for Carlotta's questions. Senator Carlotta, can you, just, do you have anything to add regarding what the government is doing to mitigate the military's buildup to local housing?
Well, what I would just like to speak as a former lawmaker to fellow lawmakers. If I were in your position, I would be looking at the housing study that GORA put out, and where they identified that there's something like 6,500 homes that are not in the mix. And they're not in the mix because they're stuck in probate, they can't get funding, they can't
we're familiar with that.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start, of how to incentivize. I don't know if you can write incentives so that if they do this and turn it into affordable housing for 10 years or something, they can get a break. So
well, that would be the government of Guam taking on additional responsibility, which it could, but I'm just asking about this hearing today regarding the intersection between the military and its actions and Guam. So you're saying we just mitigate that on our own. Have you guys entered into any discussions on additional, I mean, there was talks before about asking them to change different things. I was at the forum that you had. Is there going to be any push, for example, during the Economic Adjustment Committee, or any no other efforts that you're aware of?
If I could just throw some things out, having been involved in military buildups, the shrinking and growing of them over decades, and what can happen is you can think you're going to get hit with a huge buildup, and then something changes, and then troops get pulled back, or they don't come for a long time. That's what we saw when somebody built those 4 huge towers over at GMH that sat for about 10, 12 years before things picked up. Now you hear that troops might be getting pulled out of Europe, a huge amount of troops getting pulled. So it ebbs and flows. And so it's entirely possible that this thing could change. And then I just want to throw that out. And then another thing that I want to throw out is in each and every meeting that I go to at different times, I'm pushing for them to go higher. I don't understand why.
Higher what?
Condos to go up instead of taking up so much land space. I think that when you look at military bases in Okinawa and you look at housing in Korea, they're all up in huge towers. They're not taking up precious land space. So that's a pushback that I personally throw into each and every different kind of meetings and opportunities that I get. And when you look at housing in military housing in Japan, Okinawa, and Korea, you'll see that what it looks like there.
All right. Well, the housing shortage that we're having is immediate. It's not
Yes.
one that they're even, I mean, the future is also a potential, you know, it's going to be a similar situation, but right now the situation is dire according to everyone. So
I agree.
I'm just wondering if there's anything that you're aware of that's a concerted effort on in your
They're building houses, they're fixing up houses, they're trying to add more inventory on the military bases. That's one thing. And the other thing of the kind of personnel that they send over, to send over more single soldiers instead of the ones that come with their families. So I've seen them try to mitigate their impacts in ways such as the type of soldier, but I know that there's lots of money in the budgets to fix up and build more houses on the military bases right now.
So in the NDAA, they note 452 housing units at Anderson Air Force Base. They're going to replace. So that would just be a replacement of 452, not an additional. And they're going to revitalize 44 current unit Lockwood Terrace at Naval Base Guam. So it doesn't really sound like additional, just kind of replacement of the numbers on their side. And then what about the land easements that they are proposing to obtain for their installation of nuclear reactors for the missile defense? Land easements sounds to me like kind of contrary to the net negative land policy that the military promised during the buildup. Do you agree? And is there any effort to push back on additional land easements? That are they not able to?
I personally push back on it. I personally go into meetings and I'm questioning what did they mean when you said that you were not going to increase your geographic footprint. By the time you leave, your geographic footprint will be smaller. I think their interpretation is on excess lands, because what's happening right now is our people are running at them with land that they want to sell, that they want to lease. And so that's the reality of what's going on, is that there is a lot of interested landowners close to military installations that want to talk about selling or leasing their land.
Sure, but there was also a promise, right, that they would not increase their footprint, as you said. And yeah, but now this seems completely contrary to that they want to increase, to obtain additional land easements, like you say, by purchase or otherwise.
I guess
so you say you personally push back, but in your position, aren't you the one representing us in the meetings?
Yes, and I make my point clear, but I am not the only person that has an opinion on how this should go. I think they might look at it like the way they got land before was after the war, where there was so much condemning of land, or that's how there was land acquisition before. Right now, when you've got local families that are nearby saying, I'd like to have meetings with you to talk about this, it's a different dynamic, Senator, of how our people are approaching. Many of them are seeing this as an opportunity.
I agree for the people that can do what they want with their land,
Right.
but I'm asking, what is the government doing? The governor's office and your offices doing to represent us in regards to these additional land that the military wants to obtain on Guam.
My preference is that I think they should go up high on their footprint. That's my stated position. It's not the winning argument, but that's what I put forth.
All right. Well, and are you familiar with what the agenda will be in the Economic Adjustment Committee?
This is Vera's.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Senator Barnett, you are recognized.
Madam Chair, first of all, for holding the hearing, and thank you for everyone who's in attendance. Questions for Senator Carlotta. Senator, if you could just start by kind of going over your experience relative to working on the military buildup. Does it extend prior to this administration?
Yes. When I first was a senator, they were closing bases. There was BRAC, base realignment and closure. So that's why I was saying I've been around where they shrink or they grow. So I was a member of the legislature, and then I joined BRAC. And Joe T. St. Augustine was there the first year I was a senator, and then he left office and he became the executive director of the local reuse authority to respond to the BRAC. And so what he had was a weekly meeting, and Senator Lamarena, who was tourism and economic development, I was transportation, telecommunications, and Micronesian affairs. And the two of us were on that committee. So we would go to Adelup every Thursday for a 2-hour meeting. And then there would also be other business people there, other people from different agencies. And then we participated in all the meetings with the military. And we would go to Hawaii, and we had legal counsel. So Joe T. wrote a grant, and we got a grant from an EDA to fund our operations and to have legal counsel. And so we went, and this was the group that got back 3,200 acres of excess land. The other thing that we did is the military was going to close SRF and keep SRF. Joe T. found language, and our lawyers found language that we could go after it. So we put together the lease terms, and we went after that one, and it resulted in keeping like 700 jobs on island. So that's the kind of work that I've done in the past when I was a senator. And then when I was chief of staff to the lieutenant governor of Guam, me and George Bamba created the Civilian Military Task Force. I was still here, chief of staff to Mike Cruz, and George was chief of staff to Felix. And we created this entity. And then when I went up with Mike Cruz to Adelup, we created, I think, 12 committees, and each committee had people from the government of Guam, the civilian population, as well as the military on every topic. And then we crunched out budgets and came up, and Sean was there also, and we crunched out budgets and came up with scenarios of how we needed to respond. So that's the history that I have. And also in that period of time before that, when I was a journalist, there would be efforts like when part of that shrinking and growing would be a volcano goes off, Pinatubo, and the whole effort at that time was to move all of Clark and Subic to Guam. So there was this massive, okay, let's get ready for that. And there was a lot of activity and people interested, and then they went all the way to the West Coast, and that totally shrank. So that's what I'm saying, it can shrink and grow, and there can be long periods of time between it. Nobody ever would have thought that they would close NAS. Nobody ever thought that would ever happen. And yet the government of Guam went after that. The government of Guam made the case to get back NAS. So, and George and I, we were all participant on that effort. So that's the background that I have. Thank you for asking me.
No worries, just wanted for the viewing public to get an idea that you've been involved for decades
Yes.
in guiding and working on the military buildup on Guam. Are you able to clarify the land that Department of War is trying to obtain that Senator Terlahi was referring to Is this relative to the 19 proposed missile defense sites, and how is it related to the recent news of the Department of War making available some $29 million to purchase private property on Guam?
My understanding, I don't want to get I don't want to confuse the lawmakers. I was talking about the people that are wanting to sell because of building housing and doing leasing deals on housing. I wasn't referring to easements for nuclear reactors to support military operations. So I know that this is something that the lawmakers have indicated that they were going to pass something to, or if not, if you haven't already, something that would say specifically how the people of Guam feel about nuclear reactors.
So that's the difference, is the $29 million that's being made available is for the acquisition of private property to meet the military's housing needs?
I'm not sure if that's it. Vera might know.
Yeah, I think there's there is a difference between the easements, right? The Department of War wanting to access Gov Guam easements, such as in the same manner that Gov Guam would need military easements. And so that is strictly handled between DPW and Department of Land Management. And it's not necessarily an acquisition. So there's an agreement. So I think that they would be able to provide more detail on the easement that's being requested to support missile defense. On the land acquisition, it means just that. It's to acquire land, but it's not specific. If you look at the missile defense or the NDAA, it's not specific to which land, or it is just a authorization to purchase the land. But there are no specifics, and I would imagine that to buy, their policy or their statutes require them to budget to buy whatever it is they want to buy, and that would be inclusive of land. So if they have an RFP for private sector housing, they would need the money to negotiate with the private sector or the private owner of property to acquire. But it's not specifically detailed in the NDAA, but that would be needed to be approved by Congress.
Thank you.
To purchase land.
Thank you. Are you able to share then, I'm a little bit foggy on it, how the military intends to obtain the land relative to the proposed missile defense sites? I think there's 19 located around the island.
Let's just, for Carlotta,
yeah.
I just need to, if she doesn't know it, she can refer it to, okay, you're going to refer it.
Okay, so I did notice on the Civilian Military Coordinating Council, there was a couple questions here that I'm not sure if they were answered. How often does the council meet, and how can the public access the minutes of these meetings?
I would say the meetings are about 3 to 4 times a year, and the minutes, I think they're accessible. I don't know if they're on the website or...
Can they be FOIA'd?
Yeah, I think that's the point, is we haven't seen any minutes. We also are not privy to when these meetings are held. So could you also answer why these meetings are subject to the, open government law and the public notice requirements that, pretty much all our other meetings are subject to?
Me personally, I could not respond to that, and I would go back to my earlier statement that I would be happy to see you guys there, so, and get as much information as possible.
I appreciate that sentiment, but, you'd be happy for us to be there. We don't even know when the meetings are. The people of Guam don't know when the meetings are. The people of Guam can't access the minutes, have no idea what's being discussed in these meetings, and they're pretty heavy meetings. I mean, you're coordinating with the military, many aspects that impact and affect civilian life. So I've said this repeatedly in my tenure as a senator. I believe these meetings should be made public. About all I've seen of these meetings, are photo opportunities posted to Joint Region Marianas' Facebook page and the governor's Facebook page. And these photo ops come after the meetings have been concluded. So if you're able to, Senator, can you again tell us why these meetings don't fall under the purview of the open government law, and why the public or elected leaders, for that matter, are not given access to attend these meetings?
Senator, I would not be able to answer that. I don't know any reason why, justification why they are not.
Are you able to follow up on that in your capacity?
I will. I can assure you I will.
Okay. Yeah, because how long have we been having these meetings?
I'm sorry?
How many years have we been having these meetings with the CMCC?
I think they started during the Camacho administration. The CMTF kind of morphed into the CMCC. During the Calvo administration, they didn't take place at all. And so they just started back up when this administration started. So they started, then there was a break, and then started up again.
So just for the record, you agree that these meetings should be made public and should adhere to the open government law and all of the public notice requirements that we all have to go through?
If it were left to me, I would, and I would load you guys up with the things to do list that would make everybody productive, as frustrated as you guys are, I can see.
It is frustrating, and I mean, I would like to see these meetings and see the minutes, because when you come to the People's House and you tell the senators and the people of Guam that you're taking these stances that are in our best interest, and I'd like to see that on the record, whether it's
I hope you could appreciate that we're here.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah. But I mean, but Senator, I hope you can appreciate that you are here, but our so-called military partners on the Joint Region Mariana side are not here. That the involvement of these same entities in these meetings, to me, that seems to be the trigger as to why the public's not notified about them, why the public's not privy to the information, why senators are not allowed to attend these meetings. And with something as significant as this ongoing military buildup, I think, and you know, because you've worked on this for decades, that there's a tendency for secrecy, that there's a lack of transparency and accountability when we have meetings behind closed doors that the people of Guam aren't privy to. And I think we'd be hard pressed to find anybody who doesn't think that these meetings should be made public, and that the people of Guam should understand, what these representatives in these meetings who, some of you are not elected to represent the people. What's being said, what's being discussed, what's being promised, what's being asked for, and maybe more importantly, what's not being asked for. So I just wanted to again put that on the record, Madam Chair. It's probably like the 5th time I've asked that these meetings be made public, but I'm glad that we're getting a more firm commitment from the senator to pursue this for the people of Guam. Sidos Masi.
Thank you so much, Senator Barnett. Carlotta, you have the questions in front of you. I know you've been very busy with the recovery efforts of the typhoons, but not just in Guam, but it's continuing, and it's heart-wrenching to see our brothers and sisters in the CMI suffer so much. And I want to thank you and the Aduda Foundation actually for collecting ever since day one, supplies needed to the CNMI for their help. I talked to our Speaker Bloss, and he has mentioned all the efforts that you've done. It was just very impressive. And I'm glad to know that there is a warehouse. The Aduda Foundation has a warehouse so they can collect these items and distribute them correctly to those who truly need it, because we know that some things are happening there. Very much so, the questions that were asked by my colleagues today, if you can also include them, please, into the questions I provided you earlier, and please feel free to add additional comments that you may have. But I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and your excuse.
Thank you for letting me.
Okay, I know. You got to make sure the next pallet gets on the next plane out to CNMI. I appreciate again. Thank you so much. And at this time, I'd like to recognize another person who is dealing with the typhoon recovery, as well as some cybersecurity issues that's been going on. Ms. Paris, I'm going to have my colleagues ask you some questions right now. And again, I'll start with Senator Sean Gumatauta.
Madam Chair, I have no questions for Lucy. Thank you, Lucy.
Okay, and then Senator Lujan, you are now recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I as well have no other questions. My questions remain the same, basically, but thank you very much. Thank you.
Very welcome. Senator Therese Terlahi, you're recognized for Homeland Security.
Does Homeland Security intend to play a role in the Economic Adjustment Committee meeting, if that is convened?
Yes, ma'am, they do.
What is your ask?
I would have to refer back to the HSA, and I will make sure I note that question and have her submit her response.
I'm trying to get a feel for what's our goal during that meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, and all right. No other questions, Madam Chair.
Senator Barnett, you're recognized.
Madam Chair. I also had questions about the Economic Adjustment Committee convening, but since it appears we're not able to answer those, I'll save them for another hearing. But Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Paris.
Okay, and then lastly, I do have some questions, additional questions, especially with the cybersecurity that's happening right now. I know that the websites for most of our agencies were down. Luckily, some data was kept. In the event of a military buildup, one of the questions that I did have that I wanted to pose is civil defense, homeland security. They're the individuals that warn us, the civilians that are here, the community. So if Guam were to conduct, a massive cyber attack on our community, power, water, essentials, and if there was any kind of act of war, how will the community of Guam be notified? When I asked, and just to let you know, some background, I did ask the generals when we had a meeting with them. In the event something like this to happen, like Taiwan would be, they're bombing Taiwan, or we know that it's very close to where we are, and what's gonna happen? I mean, is it gonna be like World War II, where C-130s came to pick up everybody who lived on the military base and left the civilians behind? Who's responsible, I asked. And they responded, we're not responsible. The military is not responsible for the civilians here. So who is responsible to notify us, those who live here, that call Guam home, in the event any kind of military attack, missile defense, can warn us? That's my question.
I will have the HSA respond to you formally on that question, on who would be responsible to inform the public, those who live outside the fence, is what I'm gathering your question is. Currently, if there was any event, we would coordinate through the Joint Information Center, which comprises of different PIOs, right? So your question, if there was a cyber attack, if there was an act of war, how do we get notices out? The Joint Information Center is active. We've discussed, should systems go down and we cannot utilize the cell phones, if we cannot utilize radio or TV, what's the next step? And so we've had discussions with the mayor's representative. We have a task force on communication that is comprised of the private companies on what steps need to be taken. So, and we also work with FEMA to go through our plans and discuss what that's gonna look like. Whether it's gonna be bullhorns, whether it's gonna be people going forth and walking to or driving to agencies to find out information, what that will look like. But that is currently being updated and reviewed. What we also do is we work with the agencies, the government of Guam agencies, to look at their PACE plan, right? So PACE plan is your primary, your secondary, your emergency communication. So should the phone system go down, what are you gonna do? And most people will say, oh, I have cell phones. Well, what if the cell phones go down? Well, I have radio. What if that goes down? So that is what we're updating and we exercise to. And the Joint Information Center plays a great part in that.
Well, that's something that should have been done a long time ago, if you ask me. You know, we're scrambling to find out how are we going to warn our community in the event there's war? How do we know that when cybersecurity hits us, that's a big time, takes out our water infrastructure? All those possibilities that will hinder us. Where do we go? Who do we see? I mean, what do you have in planned? And this is something I think we really need to not looking to get done since yesterday, and I will be asking for, you know, if you go back to Esther,
Right.
you know, give us a plan, because I know myself have been reaching out to FEMA for a thing called the pause.
Right.
Right? And this information was supposed to be given to Guam a long time ago, and I'm trying to bring it back. I had to cancel my trip to Hawaii meeting with FEMA regarding the pause because of the Epic Fury and the shutdown. So I ended up not going, but you and I talked with the federal individual that was there from the federal side on FEMA. But this part in your testimony that was provided on public warning systems, I want to correct a common misconception. Guam does not have an air raid warning system. What we have is an all-hazard alert warning system, or AWS, and I'm proud to report it fully operational. Can you elaborate on this? Does not have an air raid warning system.
So I just want to clarify. There's always been a PACE plan. It's nothing new. As long as civil defense has been in existence, each agency has one, and we constantly go back and request for updates. I, as ESF2, whenever there's going to be any exercise, or as soon as we get a heavy weather brief, for example, that's one of my primary talks with each of our agency representatives, is to go back and look at your communications plan. In the event that you have no communications, what are you going to do? And communications can mean different things to different agencies, right? So just want to be clear, it's a plan that's been in existence. It's going through different updates because of technology. So it's there. But because of how technology evolved, the plans also have to be updated. So for that.
Constantly.
Now, constantly, yes.
Yep.
And that's my fear, right? That's when there's an activation, that's one of the hats I wear. So yes, it's worked on. Now, in terms of the air raid, system. So there's no air raid. What Guam does have is an all hazards alert warning system. And so this started out as sirens that were placed for tsunami. And then eventually through the years, we upgraded that because tsunami is not an only event that happens on the island. It could be other things. It could be flooding, it could be a typhoon, it could be whichever, right? So we've installed that, and they're located throughout the island, and we go through a test every month. And this is Tuesday, second Tuesday. And it's not only Guam that tests the system. We work together collaboratively with our federal partners. So like the Giant Voice, we each have that NVG. We test our systems so that the people will know and understand. In the AHA system, there are programs that define different alert codes. So for tsunami, you have a specific alert code. For other events, for a presidential message, there may be a different alert code. Now, in terms of what you were talking about IPAWS, so Guam, the Office of Civil Defense, Homeland Security applied for a grant on August 4th of last year, and the grant was the Next Generation Warning System. We submitted a grant, and in that grant, we requested for, first and foremost, was to be integrated into IPAWS, right? So that Guam can receive the same alerts that CONUS does. So that's in the works. The second program that we requested for was the wireless emergency alert. So whenever you travel to the mainland, if you have your cell phone and there was an Amber Alert or there was any alert, you get it automatically on your cell phones. On Guam, that doesn't happen because we don't have the equipment. So we are working with DHS on getting that. And what that means is that we will work together with our private telecommunication carriers, because the systems belong to them, to ensure that the gateway that is installed works with that system. What that's going to do, it's going to take work of trying to get a message and get it down to 160 characters to send to telecommunication carriers, to have them program in, and then for them to send out. That's currently what happens. How soon you get that message could vary. It could be instantaneously. It could be depending on where that cell phone is located at, whether they have access to a tower. It could be, sometimes I've seen a day, and it's because the person's cell phone wasn't fully charged. So with wireless emergency alert, all that gets put away, and now it's instantaneous. So that's what we're working on.
Working on, okay.
Yes, yes, because they were in furlough, so
Yep.
yeah.
It's very it's very sad that we don't have this capability right now, and I know I'm trying to help push this through. We see it when you go to other countries, not just the U.S., but like for instance, I was in Taiwan and was on the 30th floor, and I really didn't realize Taiwan had earthquakes. And right when it made it first jerk, I got something on my phone automatically that said earthquake. Here in Guam, we get it 5 to 10 minutes later that there was an earthquake. This is like as soon as it makes one jerk, boom, it's set off. And it's set off for a reason, because then communications can go down really quick. So really hope that we can work together on how we can educate our community on what to look for in the event of an invasion into the island, cybersecurity, and we really need to get that out since yesterday. But appreciate if you can bring back to the table some of the questions that were asked earlier of myself and that we had, and looking forward to those answers. And I appreciate all that you're doing. I know you have to go as well. I kept you half an hour more than was supposed to because of the efforts, the recovery efforts. So I appreciate. My colleagues don't have any more questions. Oh, sure, Senator.
Sorry about that. Yeah, just one question before you leave. In Ms. Agui's testimony here today, it says, regarding the secured room located inside the OHS and OCD facility, I want to be clear the loss of access to that space has not impacted our defensive capabilities or our readiness. Our strong partnerships with Joint Regional Marianas and the Federal Bureau of Investigation continue to provide us with the critical information necessary in the interest of national security. Those relationships are intact, active, and effective. At this time, there is no projected timeline for regaining access to that room, but operationally, we remain fully capable. What conditions or situations would warrant you needing to be in that secured room, and should our partnership with the Joint Region Marianas and Bureau of Investigations, they're providing us with information, but how long does that information take to get to you if you don't have access to a secured facility? And so, again, what conditions or what situations would require you to, because you said there's no timeline in regaining access, so does that mean we're not gonna have it at all? It's not a priority? And what conditions or situations will require a secured access to your secured room?
Two things. In terms of the timeline, the Mariana Regional Fusion Center is waiting on DHS, Department of Homeland Security, to respond to their letter as to when or what or how that room will be handled. So that's the timeline that HSA Aggie was speaking to. In terms of, so the second part, as soon as there is a call, a notice, or an individual walking up to the HSA, Homeland Security Advisor, or the governor, and is given a notice that they are required or needed to attend a brief that requires a certain security level clearance, both individuals have access to those rooms. I can say that as recently as 2 to 3 weeks ago, there was an event that required our Homeland Security advisor to be informed of a report. And as soon as they let her know, she made herself available and she went to the site. So you're not waiting for days to get access to a room. As soon as they receive notice that a brief needs to happen at with their security level clearance, both principals are told where to go.
Okay, so we're getting it pretty much in real time then?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. And you said you're waiting for Department of Homeland Security. Is that a funding situation?
It's not a funding situation.
Okay.
It's regarding how they want to deal with the room.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And if I'm not mistaken, Fusion Center section that Senator Jesse Lujan is talking about, I do know that when I visited up there that it is ready for inspection, any kind of clearance that needed to be done because of the condition it was in prior. They addressed all the conditions and we're just waiting now for the federal side to clear.
Respond.
To clear that room so we can begin doing it. But yeah, I was concerned about that too. Thank you for bringing that up, Senator Lujan. And at this time, you are excused. Yeah, thank you again to everyone at Homeland Security and Civil Defense for what they're doing on the relief efforts from the typhoon. Thank you.
Thank you for coming up to our office. And thank you also to Senator Sean. He also came up and he saw firsthand what happens during a disaster operation. So we truly appreciate it.
Okay, thank you so much, and we'll look forward to your responses to some of those questions. And at this time, I'm going to open it up to my colleagues for both sides, either from the Guam Guard or to SIDLO. Okay, so I begin with Senator Gumatauta. You're recognized to answer either or.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And let me re-ask the question of Vera. First off, good afternoon to Vera, and also not a proper good afternoon to my former boss and former Senator George Bamba. Thank you, George, for being with us today. Going back, on the proposed MIT study area expansion, which government of Guam agencies were formally consulted before the proposal was advanced, and has the Office of the Governor provided a written position on the expansion's potential impact on civilian communities?
Yes, so we formally responded on May 1st. We met that deadline, and we worked with all of our agencies, and specifically in the areas of the, and we will share the response to the Navy, but we covered biological resources, everything from marine mammals to cultural resources, archaeological resources, traditional cultural places. We looked at the socioeconomic section. We responded to public health and safety. Other resource areas include invasive species, coastal resources, marine transportation, and so it was a pretty robust response that dealt with all of those resource areas. And then what some of the subcategories were related to sediments and water quality, air resources, and again, marine habitat, everything from marine vegetation, seabird. I mean, it was a very comprehensive response, probably one of the best that we've done, because we did have some technical experts on board to help our agencies.
All right, thank you, Vera. Now, it was suggested during a military buildup informational briefing in April of last year that in addition to archaeological and environmental personnel, first responders, including firefighters, should be available to closely monitor all military training and testing related activities. To what extent have our Guam public safety and law enforcement personnel engaged in observing military exercises, if any, at least during the past year since the governor's office suggested their participation as observers?
I do know that we had responses from the Customs and Quarantine and first responders, specifically the fire department, who responded and provided their comments.
All right, thank you. As Guam's premier law enforcement agency, the Guam Police Department shared during the department's budget hearing last week that it had submitted a $6 million federal grant application to the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority for a JIGO police station, which would strengthen police services in JIGO and in parts of Derrida, recognizing that the Community Defense Liaison Office's role as the central point of contact for all DoD growth and activities on Guam. And I kind of would refer even to your presentation, which was encouraging, on village infrastructure assessment. But when we think about this type of activity, how specifically can you and your office assist GPD in establishing this much-needed presence in northern Guam in support of not just our civilian communities, but in my discussions with the Air Wing, also Anderson Air Force Base, and also nearby Camp Loss?
Yeah, so one of the things that is, well, I think it's been on its third year, is there's an opportunity for agencies and business partners, if there's a public-private partnership, to apply for the Defense Community Infrastructure Program under OCC. This year, they're at a $200 million budget availability, and so we've been able to get some of our agencies to win some of those awards. It is competitive, but I think with Guam's current activity with the buildup, we've gotten, in the last 3 years, we've gotten two large awards. In addition to that, the Economic Adjustment Committee was going to be that convening committee where our agencies would be able to present their top priorities. And I do know that the Guam Police Department submitted that, and we asked them to also include any grant applications that we submitted so that we could discuss that during the Economic Adjustment Committee meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the Economic Adjustment Committee is an executive branch function, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. The Guam Fire Department, and this is kind of a good segue, they reported 22,196 total calls for service in 2025, requiring the assistance of a GFD unit. Now, the data doesn't break down the responses for civilian emergencies and those involving our military communities through established mutual aid agreements. What information can you possibly share confirming your efforts with DoD to also strengthen GFD's operational posture, especially in support of course, Anderson Air Force Base and Camp Loss in the north, as an example of this?
So the Guam Fire Department reported in the January CMCC meeting a co-sponsor presentation with the Navy on emergency response. And they provided us data in the government of Guam, GFD, in their response to military support. So those numbers are available, and that is what we are also packaging. But also those numbers help to strengthen any mutual aid agreements in place. So there's an opportunity to enhance it, to support the growth, and an opportunity for funding for whether it be infrastructure to submit as part of the Economic Adjustment Committee packages.
Yeah, and thank you for that, because in fact I did get a chance to see that in our legislative briefing with the Admiral relative to the work on the emergency management side. It was great to see that kind of collaboration on the fire side, and again, would continue to encourage your office to direct more of the that kind of collaboration. I don't necessarily have any questions for the National Guard. You know, your presentation was spot on, and it's very consistent with what we have heard relative to with the Joint Task Force. So again, do appreciate the National Guard's participation today. But I do want to, if I can, Madam Chair, I'm just going to end with this because I just, as I sit up here as a policymaker, I'm reminded about our role. And I would, there's a couple of maybe comments made earlier. I would disagree with some of that. As a son of a United States Marine, Vietnam veteran, I'm very proud to, to also serve. We're a country of laws. I'm happy to hear some of our disagreement, because I think this kind of engagement is not meant to have any disagreement, but to try to find a way to meet in the middle. And I'm hoping that as the command is listening, that they're not here. This is our function, and I think we're doing what we have to do. But I'm certain that Joint Region is paying attention, and I know that the governor of Guam will carry the message of not only the rest of the people of Guam, but also this branch's position on the myriad of issues that face us as a community, because it's not a single, we're one community, and I hope that you can take that back, Vera, to the governor, and I hope we can work together moving forward. And again, thank you, Madam Chair, for the time.
Thank you, Senator Kumatauta, as well. My father is also a veteran as well. And, when we started this out, even during the Camacho administration, as, Senator Kumatauta, I believe, was there during the Camacho administration and going into the Calvo administration, was when a lot of things were put into place. And one of them was the One Guam approach, and the 4 pillars that were put together. And it was put out to the community. I remember there were a bunch of hearings that were out there, and trying to find that one programmatic agreement that would also work with everyone. So, it is still very disappointing, not that, because I know that you're stuck with answering a lot of these questions, Vera, some of them that you're trying to get the updates to on the housing situation, or what stockpile has been eliminated for Guam on this military buildup because of the epic fury. That's one of the biggest concerns that a lot of people have. Do we still have those stockpile for Guam to protect us? When the military buildup came to Guam, we also became a bigger target. We've always been a target, technically, but we're not on that first row of defense in the Pacific. We're on the second row. But that could still be very, very scary for a lot of our people on Guam. And knowing that the military is here to protect us is something that we need to know. We need to know that as a community, because many people are just deciding to pack up and leave because they don't feel that if anything should happen and war breaks out on Guam, or that we're attacked, whether through airstrikes or drones or cybersecurity, we have to make sure that our people are notified well in advance and to give them that security that, no, we are here. Sidlo's here. We have Homeland Security. We have our National Guard here protecting us. And that's all what we're here for. But to not have the military themselves here at this meeting is very disheartening, to say the least. So I appreciate it. So Senator Lujan, you are now recognized, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Just to the Guard, just this morning, I was told that our National Guard and the CNMI are in need of a lot of assistance. Is that being provided, and what assistance are being provided, or their I guess, shortcomings in their needs?
Senator, appreciate the question. We are assessing the situation currently, and the National Guard, as you know, is prepared to mobilize under either the direction of the federal government or the governor of Guam, and we maintain our preparation and readiness in the event that we will deploy.
Oh, okay, but their everyday needs are being assessed. That's what I'm hearing, that their everyday needs are they're in great need, as is everybody over there as well. But I guess for them to function in their capacities, the things we take for granted, are those needs being provided then to them by the Guard here?
For clarification, Senator, are you asking our guardsmen that are currently over there, or are they being provided,
yes,
or
yes.
the population?
Yeah. Yes, are they, yeah.
So, Senator, once again, I will say that we are keeping track and a vigilance on what is occurring over there. We do understand the events that have occurred and how it's impacted the local population. And once again, we are prepared to maneuver to support such a mission, but we're very dependent on the requirements, the authorities, and the funding given to us through the authority of the governor or from the federal side to be able to do something specifically.
No, I understand that, but I mean, in our capacity, if we're waiting for funding from the federal government, what can we do now that, as a civilian community, that we can provide for them, because we're doing that right now, as we're doing it for the residents over there. But if they're everyday essential needs and things like that,
right?
And again, if we're waiting for funding, but what can the community do at this point that make sure it's directed as well to our guards folks that are over there. If we're still waiting for the funding, but what can we do now to be able to do that? So, because I just heard it from some guards folks this morning that they were collecting and they were doing some things to send over there as well. So, what can we do in our capacity? Minus the main funding source.
And Roger, Senator, we have done some collections. We have had visits with our chaplain teams, with our recruiting retention that's gone over, checked with our soldiers that are over there. We have done assessments with the government of Guam. We have provided, as I said, there has been donations and such that have gone out. And of course, we obviously want to do more, but we're very dependent on the authority to do that. And as of right now, we're assessing the best way that we can potentially support Saipan, whether it is through the federal side or through the government of Guam.
How many of our folks are there, our guard folks that over there?
So currently we're looking approximately about 60 individuals
60.
that are over there. Some are impacted by it, and we're making sure that that those soldiers are getting all their benefits and support that they possibly can.
Yeah, no, just because if there's a need, just please let us know so we can, again, it's something that we can directly provide for them, because their funding hasn't come in yet, or waiting for clearance. We want to be able to do that and make sure that a portion are given to them as well.
Senator, I do appreciate that. That is correct, and Sergeant Major did bring up a good point. We do have the National Guard Relief Fund that is a part of some of the support that we can provide out there. But as for actual actions of what our units potentially can do, we have to go through these alternate routes to be able to support.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Very welcome. Thank you, Senator Lujan. Senator Chulahi, you are now recognized.
Si Diyos Masi. And follow up, I want to also thank the National Guard, Guam National Guard, for all of its efforts to secure us and to restore us after Typhoon Sinlaku, and continued efforts, I'm sure, and but especially those immediate efforts right after the storm, we're very appreciative.
Thank you, Senator. We appreciate it.
Thank you. As to the build-up briefing, if I could get back to the liaison office. So did your consultant also assist you in responding to the environmental assessment for the missile defense?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, turn the microphone.
Sorry. Yes, they did. They came on a little late from the time that we awarded the contract. But they did provide support to us. But we also, the CDLO, we worked really hard to help the agencies respond, just researching NEPA on our own. But to your question, yes.
All right. So I know that there were some concerns, and it seems like just from this May 1 article that I'm reading regarding the Pentagon's budget request for Guam in particular, where they point out that they are requesting a $29 million sum for land acquisition in Guam. This is supposedly for the explosive safety quantity distance arcs will encroach onto non-military land for missile defense sites at Marine Corps Base, Camp Blas, and Navy property at Nimitz Hill. So they want to obtain the surrounding land for that safety buffer zone based on where they're putting their missiles up on those sites. It says the plans call for 6 missile launchers at Camp Blas site and 3 on Nimitz Hill. So non-military land near those areas require real estate action. That's their quote. They also want a road easement across the government of Guam land near Naval Magazine for another missile defense site at Naval Magazine. So is the government of Guam agreeing to this easement?
I would have to defer to, we are not involved in negotiating an easement. We are aware that there is a request, and I believe that, I need to confirm, but I believe that is already risen to the Attorney General's office, if I'm not mistaken.
So they're proceeding with it?
Yeah. Route 17. Yeah. Yeah, Route 17. So, but Department of Land Management and I believe DPW, but I'll confirm, are the ones who the Navy has
Negotiated
sent.
with?
I don't know about negotiated with, but they've sent the request.
So they're just granting an easement, and now it's gone to
No,
the AG?
I didn't say they're granting the easement. I said they made the request to the appropriate GovGuam agencies, but where that is today, I'm not sure. We'd have to confirm.
Okay. I thought
with
you
them.
said it's at the AG, so I thought
I
it's,
understand
in the
that he's
process.
also
Okay.
reviewing the request.
All right, okay.
Yes.
Well then, and then they also talked about that they are going to fund nuclear reactors, and our congressman asked for what military funding source could help Guam Power Authority and the island's power grid. And I know from all the presentations and the other media that the governor and GPA are in agreement. We want to harden, they call it, our power grid, put it cement or, and so that, that's proactive. But it sounds like from this response that they don't have any plans to do that in this budget, and their only plan is to move forward with their own nuclear power grids for their own missile defense sites or whatever sites they are involved in. Is that your understanding? That
I'm not sure what response you're referring to, the Navy's response, I'm not sure. I have not seen a budget in the defense budget for nuclear reactors for Guam. I do know that they had announced a pilot program for nuclear reactors in Air Force and Army installations, but I have not had any update that Guam is officially included and has been budgeted for micro nuclear reactors. So I have not, in all the discussions with Guam Power and the governor, we've not had any discussions on micro nuclear reactors at all.
They said that Congressman was able to put in a provision in the NDAA because of that discussion where the governor of Guam is given at least 180 days in advance of any proposal to bring the nuclear reactors to Guam. I'm wondering if you know whether there will be an additional environmental study on that or not, or just the 180 days notice, and then we don't really have time to mitigate or do anything else.
No, I apologize, I cannot comment. I have not read the response, and I have not had a discussion with the governor on our position on micronuclear reactors.
Okay, thank you. So I appreciate your efforts and the governor's efforts on convening the Economic Adjustment Committee. You say that it's like the you have letters that show that they intend to convene one. Do we have a timeline that we can guess?
Well, as I said, we had, unfortunately, we're scheduled to meet, but Sinlaco hit, and so we postponed, and we hope to find out this week when we will put that back on the calendar. I believe we are asking, the government of Guam is asking for June
okay.
to meet in San Francisco.
Okay. So can I ask, then you must know already, what is the government of Guam's asks? For example, are we asking for hardening of our power infrastructure, or are we in agreement with them providing their own mini nuclear reactors?
I think it would be safe for me to say that everything that we are asking for, the individual agencies are asking for, that is what they have reported to their oversight chairs in terms of what they need to deal with the buildup. So Guam Power has off the top, underground power lines is what they're requesting. The Port Authority of Guam, that is looking at the entire infrastructure of the Port Authority, the fuel storage facility area, additional support to upgrade, to install the new gantry cranes. So they're pretty big budgets, and I don't think that you would be surprised by anything that they're asking, because it's something I believe that they have asked the legislature.
Right. Well, that's good to know.
Obviously,
Is there
year to year to fund, right?
Yeah. Is there a place we can look at what you intend to request at those meetings?
Everything that I have is directly from the agency heads.
Yeah.
So,
is there a place that we can see that? Or?
Well, I can certainly send it to you.
All right.
There's not anywhere that we collected the data and have a package, so I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be able to share that.
Okay, I'd appreciate that, Madam Chair, if you could follow up with that. And then package, your packaging, you're going to go meet with them and hopefully get for Guam. Does that include anything regarding housing?
Yes. So in the roundtable, what we are doing is for every, so the EAC consists of 22 federal agencies. So for everyone who is going to attend on the federal side, we are bringing their counterpart. And so housing, so really it is a lot of the critical infrastructure, power, water, housing, health and human service, roads, port. It's a pretty good contingency because we are meeting with, some of them are, if they're not the secretary of that federal department, it's the undersecretary. So the cabinet heads are part of the delegation.
What might we be looking forward to in the housing area? What's our ask in the housing area, in the housing?
I would have to defer. I don't recall there's so many. I'd have to defer to Fernando on the specific ask. I know he's looking at, affordable housing, and, he'll be meeting with HUD if he hasn't already.
All right.
But I would defer to Fernando on specific.
But that would be reflected in your package that you're going to provide. All right.
Yeah.
All right, well, I appreciate that, and I wish you the best on those efforts, of course, on behalf of all of the people of Guam, that we succeed in obtaining some mitigation for the impacts of the buildup. Sidus Masi, Madam Chair.
Very welcome, Senator Chalahi. Senator Burnett, you are recognized.
Sidus Masi, Madam Chair, and again, thank you to Colonel Douglas and GUARD for being here and providing the information. Also, just want to ditto, thank you for your response to the super typhoon Sinlaku. Seeing the guys out on the intersections really brought back memories of the dancing guardsmen. I know people who are watching are going to remember exactly what I'm talking about. And it was also good to see some of these intersections where you had the guard also being supported by the law enforcement component. And it's always good to see the Guard camis out there. I mean, there's been so many storms, other times where we've been challenges in island and the people, and it has been the National Guard, Air Guard, Army Guard who has been there for our island and our people. So, I wanted to thank you, sir. Ms. Vera, I know I've given you that line of questioning about the meetings being made public, so I don't want to really belabor that, but just to kind of follow up on Senator Lahi's line of questioning, it is unnerving to read about all these things in the news relative to the micro nuclear reactors, because it was just a couple years ago in this very room, we were privy to a briefing from the Missile Defense Agency, and at the time there was a published report that discussed potential for nuclear micro reactors to be used on Guam, and I and a few of my colleagues had asked about this, and the response that we got was basically like, hey, don't freak out, that's just a little footnote of a footnote in a report that's, you know, buried under 10 reports. And, you know, here just a few years later, finding out that it's, you know, a reality that it, all intents and purposes, according to the Secretary of the Department of War, that we are getting this technology on Guam. But there was just one part that I was kind of worried about, and I don't know if you know anything about it, but the language in the NDAA says that there's a 180-day notice requirement for a permanent nuclear microreactor. So in your opinion, does that alleviate the Department of War from providing any notice to our local government when they're using portable or otherwise temporary micronuclear reactors?
Not to my knowledge. I do, and I can find out more information for you. I do know that one of our, the other communities, my counterpart in Alaska is dealing with the micronuclear reactors being installed in one of their installations. But I can certainly find out what the parameters are for officially hosting a micronuclear reactor on Guam. I can certainly reach out and let you know, right, and give you whatever information you need.
Thank you, Vera. So, and when you do that, maybe you can just kind of clue me in as to the process. So if something like the NDAA says that they have to do a 180-day notice requirement, when you're sitting in these CMCC meetings, are you able to kind of assert on behalf of the people of Guam and say things like, hey, you know, permanent, any kind of temporary, we want a notice given to the people of Guam in advance? Or are many of these decisions kind of made before you even get a seat at the table?
Oh, no, not at all. There are been several occasions where we have, and I don't want to use the word pushback, but that we have disagreed with some of the plans that they have, and that for that reason that they have made some concessions. They've, you know, shifted in many different areas. So to your point, we, you know, if we believe that there is a concern by the people of Guam, by the governor, by the legislature, we will bring that up, and we have discussed that. And again, the micronuclear reactors, I just read that a couple of days ago, and I did get some texts about that. So I will get more information, but we've had, you know, very candid conversations, but in a very respectful way. And, you know, I know that the legislature does a really good job in sharing those concerns publicly. And the CDLO, you know, for the record, we are, you know, we are not decision makers, to be quite honest. We provide, you know, policy advice. We read the NDAA. We report to the governor. We do an analysis. We do a lot of that work, but we also do a lot of the coordinating between the agencies who are not, you know, a lot of our agency heads. There are a lot of people who are not, you know, who don't have the decades of experience like Senator Carlotta. And we help them with the NEPA. Some of them, and to no fault of their own, NEPA, doesn't happen every day. So the CDLO, we do not hold back on the information that we share with our agencies. And we look at, some historical, actions in other places when these communities are dealing with NEPA actions, and hence our responses are to the, and what we recommend to the governor. I can say, that they go in. They're not. They are not changed. It goes in as is because it's sent to CDLO. We take a look at it. We make sure that, we try to make sure that, there are, we try to give them a lot of regulatory background or, statutes that, historical that have worked for other communities. And then that gets packaged and sent to the governor. And I think everything we've sent, she's basically signed off and sent in to the Navy. So I did want to make one clarification on the CMCC. And so that, the Civil Military Coordinating Council, that council was established as part of the NEPA, as part of the record of decision and part of the adaptive program management, right, to form the Civil Military Coordinating Council that's chaired by the governor. And back then it was, I believe CMCC came in probably at the early part of the Calvo administration. And it was just trying to grow its legs. So it was to address, the construction tempo and any environmental concerns that the government of Guam had with the Marine Camp Laws build out. But what we have done is that we've taken, and they've been open about that, is that we've taken the liberty of, discussing some things that are now part of, I guess I could say, the Pacific Deterrence Initiative, the Missile Defense of Guam. But there are more discussions. There are no decisions that are made because, as you know, Joint Region, they have an upper echelon, right, Indo-PACOM, and just keeps, right, that make those decisions. But we don't hesitate to discuss everything from permitting for, ongoing projects today that are not Marine Corps buildup related. And so in that spirit, we are looking at amending the CMCC charter that gives us probably a little more latitude, if you will, to discuss other things that are outside of the Marine realignment, because that really was born out of the record of decision and the Marine realignment.
Are you able in your reform of the CMCC, are you able to include any type of open government notices or any type of declaration that these meetings should be made public? Just because and listening to you talk about the things that are discussed in these meetings, again, I just gotta reiterate that the people of Guam or even their elected representatives should have a seat at this table and a voice in the conversation.
Well, I would probably, I would defer discussing that with the governor and obviously both, legal counsels, because as, it is an executive function, if you will. And so how that gets amended to include outside the executive branch, I think, legal counsel would probably have to look at that and then obviously a discussion with the governor.
Senator Carlotta alluded to the existence of meeting minutes for these meetings. And I'd have to go back and watch the tape tomorrow, but she seemed pretty convinced that there are somewhere meetings being recorded or minutes being recorded for these meetings. Do you have any knowledge of that? And are we able, through Freedom of Information Act, to obtain these minutes if they exist?
Yeah. Well, I think it would be safe for me to say that I would defer to legal counsel. My understanding, I'm not a
Which
lawyer,
part? I
but
know.
the governor has certain executive privileges.
Sure.
I am her employee, and I would have to go to legal. But I could safely say that there is everything that the agencies talk about in the CMCC. It is about their agency and the services that they're providing and the impact that the buildup is causing the agencies in terms of servicing the people of Guam. So whether it's permits or licenses or power or water, it really is all in consideration of the people of Guam. The people of Guam are well represented by the agency heads, and what they report to you during an oversight hearing, from staffing capacity to the issues that they're facing, operationally and dealing with the buildup. That's pretty much what we're hearing. But I will go back and find out what's available and what we can share, but I'm willing to answer any question you have regarding our CMCC meetings. But there is a utilities. We have a housing working group. We have a utilities team, right? There's the natural resources team, and there is now a Guam defense. I think it's the committee chairs are the TAG, Homeland Security Advisor, Joint Region Marianas, and so those are some of the committee members that are sitting in the CMCC.
Thank you for that information. And just respectfully, I would offer that the way you described what's discussed in the meetings, agencies talking about the impact of the military buildup and the military's actions, decisions on Guam, all of that to me sounds nothing like executive privilege. All of that to me sounds like information. I mean, you guys don't have, do you have a security clearance to attend these meetings? It just really seems like this information absolutely should be made public, and I'm willing to die on that hill, respectfully.
Well, your point's well taken, and I understand, and I will inquire, and I
thank
can
you
promise you a response.
Thank you, Ms. Vera. Okay. I know we've had a lot of discussions, in here and offline, and I appreciate the work that you do. And in listening to just what you're saying and listening to some of the public comments from the governor, I mean, it kind of seems like there's a disconnect, because I've attended events where the governor is, drinking wine with the admirals, and she goes up on the stage and she describes our people in these dismissive terms like, oh, we're the tip of the spear, but the spear is only good as the holders of the spear. So just that kind of rhetoric. She's done interviews in the international media where she's expressed as much as, sentiments like we could end up speaking Chinese. I think these are just absolutist notions that really they're not productive. And when I hear about the hard work that you and Senator Carlotta are doing and the other agencies that are working directly with the military buildup, it's almost a totally different response than what the governor has been said. So, I just ask that you continue to brief her with all of this information that you receive, and I hope she's reading the documents that you get, just because, again, respectfully, based on her public comments, I think she's kind of moving in a little bit of a different direction than what we hear from the table down there.
And I will assure you that everything that we do is again sent to the governor and the lieutenant governor, and it's reviewed, all of our analysis, and to be fair, I don't feel like there's a disconnect, but that's, I'll let you have your opinion.
I mean, I just, based on listening to what you're saying in here and having attended, events where the governor makes these kind of comments, it does seem like there's a little bit of a distance between her thoughts and what's actually happening. I also wanted to ask, Madam Chair, if you could, the One Guam approach, I mean, this was a big deal, and this was the promise that the Joint Region, DOD, the local partners would all have, seats at the table and discuss this military buildup moving forward as One Guam. But, it's very disappointing, despite what some of my colleagues might think, that we can't even get the presence of Joint Region Marianas or the Department of War, really just in front of the people's elected voices so that we can ask questions. So with that being said, has the One Guam approach ended? Because we don't see it really here in the legislature. I mean, it's been like...
No, I wouldn't. It hasn't ended. We, a lot of the work that we are doing is in the spirit of One Guam. That's my opinion. And when you look at the 4 pillars, these agencies who have, like utilities, I believe there's the Green Guam, have memorandums of understanding or agreements that were born out of the One Guam 4 pillars. I do know that we are in discussion about updating the One Guam and enhancing it a little more to add more. And again, the One Guam came out of obviously the CMCC, and then the One Guam 4 pillars based on some of the concerns we had back then about net negative energy, and I can't remember off the top of my head, right, cultural, right? So it is very alive, I would say. I think that, if there were specific concerns that you have regarding the One Guam and those 4 pillars, then we would be happy to bring that forward. But just recently, in the last few days, we've had discussion about, whether or not it's time to, to kind of update it and based on the current environment, right, and that we're facing today and the buildup that we're facing.
I think we agree that the One Guam agreement is lacking and that it does need some type of update or some type of closer examination to bring it really to where we envisioned it was going to be a true One Guam approach. And, I just also, when you're in the next CMCC meeting, ask the leadership of Joint Region to have a little deference and respect to the people's elected voices and attend these hearings so that we can get information from this military buildup, and the people who are building up the military are not even in attendance. And I just think that speaks volumes. And given that you're touting this good relationship that you have with them, I would just say that you pass that along, that message along from the people's elected voices and also from the people of Guam. Respectfully, Ms. Vera. Sidos Masi, Madam Chair.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Barnett, and bringing that up in your closing comments and questions, because it's true. Every admiral that has come to Guam, since during the Cavill administration, has always put forward that they want to engage in the community. They want to be a part of the community, not just themselves, but their members, their military members who decide not to go to a DODEA school, who decide to go to a public school on Guam or a private school, or who decide to go into the workforce of Guam, here on Guam, to not working inside base, outside of base, engaging in just what Guam has to offer, and they keep telling us that, and then they also say that we want to be transparent. That was one of the biggest things that this current, admiral was saying. We want to be very, very transparent. During the TAG's induction, I remember speaking with them. Oh yeah, we want to be transparent. And it's unfortunate because this is the opportunity for them to be here to be transparent, to answer our questions. And I do realize that they will come back to you and say, which I've heard them say before, is that we only answer to the governor of Guam. That's fine. You want to give them important information, stuff that is classified, et cetera. But if you're saying that you want to be transparent and engage in the community, then why did you stop? They came last year, or at least sent a representative. You know, I don't mind that, send a representative. But they didn't, and it's unfortunate. But we can be grateful for our National Guard who's here today, for SIDLO who's here today. We can be grateful for Homeland Security and Carlotta for being here too as well. You know, that we're grateful for. And I don't take that lightly when it comes to, you know, the contributions you've made, especially, you know, and we really in dire straits on any typhoon, and my colleagues want to thank you so much for all the National Guard, what they're doing, you know, our brothers and sisters there, and greatly appreciate it. And I greatly appreciate you being here too as well. There is one question I would like to ask. With this cybersecurity, did it affect the National Guard at all with this latest attack that happened on Guam? Did you guys get affected?
No, Senator, it did not.
Good. Are you using a cloud to store your data and information, or are you using GovGuam?
No, Senator, we have our own secure networks that has their additional resiliency against cyber attacks.
Excellent, excellent. I remember when Tad Cruz was involved in making sure the cybersecurity was addressed and all the concerns that may come about. I mean, he was thinking way ahead, so I'm glad to see that you guys are staying the course and continuing those efforts. The people who are listening to SIDLO, people are asking me, what's SIDLO? What's the Now, the military buildup name of the Office of Military Buildup happened back during George's time, you know, and it's so nice that you do have institutional knowledge in your office, thank goodness, not just Carlotta, but George being beside you to work with you on a daily basis. I can tell you it started out as an Office of Military Affairs, Military Buildup. The office now has changed to SIDLO, which stands for Community Defense Liaison Office. So we try to pull away from the name Military Buildup Office to just SIDLO, the acronym. But it doesn't mean that this office does not address military buildup issues. They address it every day, and they will continue to address it. There are just more moving parts now that come into this office to address, and they're doing an excellent job on trying to retain funding to do data research, information, so they go beyond the duty of military buildup. And I appreciate all the work that you're putting into this agency to be more than just the military buildup. And right now, we're going to be counting on you, Vera, for this office, to give us the information that the, GRM and those, the military who's not wanting to come in front of us. So data and information that you receive is greatly appreciated by this office, because whatever we can do to address the hardships that come with the military buildup, the housing issue that's coming about, the concern of power and water that are being utilized with the growth of the military coming, the change of rotation on these 4,000 Marines coming from, being stationed on Guam to only allowing them 6 months rotation. We all know what happens when that we don't see, Section 30 money. And that was one of the biggest assets that we received on this military buildup. Was these are the things that Guam, behind the fence, is going to be able to avail themselves of more funding, economic growth from more people to serve on this island. We're losing a lot of people right now, and that hurts our economy. So I appreciate all the questions that were asked by my colleagues and being here today, but I'll even more appreciative if you can answer their questions. Provide it to me. I will be sure to make sure they get it as well. Now, other than that, there was a question asked if you sat on the CMCC, and of course, Adjutant, the tag sits on that CMCC. That committee, you're right, a good explanation that you said. We talk about infrastructure, everything that affects our agencies are put in there, but there's also information that the military provides to on what their next movement is. One of the concerns that I had, of course, we talked about the nuclear reactors, and it was 400 million, if I'm not mistaken, set aside for nuclear reactors, small nuclear reactors, to bases, small bases. So the conversation is ongoing. Yeah, you accolade yourself with that one on the nuclear reactor, as you mentioned earlier. But if I'm not mistaken, there was something else that was concerning. No, that was already asked earlier. I'm not going to repeat that. But on the housing side, just one other thing is, have you received any word from the Department of War about when the guidance of living quarter allowances for non-active duty DOW workers? And if so, what can we expect to see on this outcome?
I have not received an update. I do know that the congressman, I believe, I saw it in the paper that he had mentioned he was pursuing that. There was a provision in the NDAA, but there's been no appropriation, and I don't know that the bill actually passed. So I can get an update on that, but to my knowledge, there has not been any funding obligated for that.
Okay, and can you tell me when your next CMCC meeting will be?
It might be May, but we'll see what happens with, everyone's in recovery. I know that, they're also helping Saipan, CNMI.
Yep.
But I think we do have one due May or June, I believe. So we try to have one quarterly.
Quarterly?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's coming up.
So it should be sometime soon.
Looking forward to that, and maybe some of the slides or the PowerPoint presentation, because we know that the military sits on that committee as well and provides information. So if any of these slide presentations need to be updated, please let us know right away, because the intent now is to allow the public, the next phase of this public hearing is to allow the public to come forward and to provide testimony, their concerns or issues. And that's something I think, you as well could listen to. I'm not asking you guys to come back. Don't worry. You've been here almost 3 hours, and appreciate your time. I greatly appreciate your time. But so that being said, if there's any comments or concerns you would like to say before I end the hearing, now's your opportunity. Usually I ask my colleagues that question, but I'm not going to. I'm going to ask you. Is there anything you would like to add?
Nothing, Senator. We're good.
Okay. Vera?
Yeah, nothing. Thank you so much for the time.
Okay. So that being said, I'd like to thank everyone again for your testimony. And so at this time, I am now calling this hearing has been heard. However, we are not going to end this hearing. We're going to recess this informational hearing. I'm recessing this information hearing briefing to allow the public to provide testimony at a later date. Also, if you would like written testimony, we may also submit it to my office at Senator Telo @gmail.com. Thank you, everyone. Created great day, and we are now in recess. Thank you.